Tell me one thing, Zara said, her voice completely flat. And I need you to tell me the truth. Aleks looked up from the contract spread across his desk. It was 11 p.m. The Seoul skyline burned behind him through 40 feet of glass. He had his jacket off, sleeves rolled, the particular looseness of a man who had been working for 14 hours and intended to work 4 more. When you said it, Zara continued, in that ballroom with 300 people listening, did any part of you mean it? The room was very quiet. Aleks set his pen down. He looked at this woman who had been standing 12 feet behind him for 7 years, who had saved his company before he knew her name, who had worked nights he never thanked her for, who had loved him in the quiet, total way of someone who asks for nothing and means it, who he had looked at in front of 300 people and 6 countries of cameras and told the world meant nothing to him. He opened his mouth, closed it, and in that silence, in the space between his inhale and the answer he could not find, Zara Adeyemi Choi understood everything she needed to understand. Okay, she said softly. She picked up her bag. She walked to the door. Zara, don't. She didn't turn around. Her voice was steady. It had always been steady. Even now, especially now. I'm not angry, Aleks. I want you to know that. I'm just done. She opened the door. There's something I was going to tell you tonight, she said, still not turning around. I decided I won't. You don't deserve to know it yet. Maybe not ever. That's going to be my decision now. And she walked out, and the door closed. And Aleks sat in his enormous office, in his enormous empire, surrounded by everything he had built and chosen, and felt, for reasons he could not have explained, that he had just lost something he would spend the rest of his life trying to calculate the value of. He did not know she was pregnant. He did not know that in 6 hours she would be gone. He did not know that the next time he saw her face clearly, it would be on a screen in front of 400 people beside the face of a 5-year-old boy with his jawline and his hair, and that the whole world would be watching him find out what he had thrown away. But we know, and this is that story. If you've ever given someone everything and watched them look through you like glass, stay with me, because this story goes places you are not expecting, and the twist at the 40-minute mark changes everything, including what you think about every single character from the very beginning. Subscribe right now if you haven't, and let's go back to where this actually started. 7 years before that office. 7 years before that door closed. 7 years before a little boy on Jeju Island ate toast and asked his mother a question she didn't know how to answer. Let's go back to the beginning of Zara. Zara Adeyemi Choi was 26 years old the first time she walked into the Volkov Group's Seoul headquarters, and she walked in the way. She walked into every room that hadn't invited her. Like she had already decided the room was wrong about her, and was simply waiting for the room to figure that out. Half Nigerian, half Korean. Raised between Lagos summers and Seoul winters, between her mother's Yoruba proverbs and her father's careful Korean silences. Fluent in 4 languages. In possession of a master's degree in financial restructuring, a second-hand briefcase her mother had pressed into her hands at Murtala Muhammad Airport, and an absolute refusal to be made small by rooms that thought that was her only option. Make them see you, her mother had said, holding her face in both hands at the departure gate, before they can decide not to. She had been trying to do that ever since. The Volkov Group was at that moment dying, quietly, strategically, hidden from markets with the precision of a company that understood exactly how bad the numbers were, and exactly how much worse the optics would be if those numbers went public. The situation: a CFO who had been stealing for 6 years through subsidiary accounts that looked, to any analyst not specifically looking for it, like ordinary variance. 3 board members who had discovered the fraud 14 months earlier and said nothing because the information was worth more as leverage than as a report. A hostile acquisition attempt from 3 competitor firms who had, not coincidentally, been tipped about the financial instability by someone whose name would take Aleks another 4 months to find. The company had 42 days before collapse became unavoidable. The senior consultant assigned to the Volkov crisis ate bad seafood the night before the first meeting, and Zara, who was junior, 3rd tier, the kind of hire that happens in bulk when a firm needs warm bodies to fill project slots, had spent the previous 11 nights, unpaid, uninstructed, simply because she encountered a problem and was constitutionally incapable of leaving it unsolved. building a complete restructuring model for the Volkov Group's debt portfolio. Not because anyone asked her to, because the problem was there, because it's unsolvable, because she was 26 and hungry and had a second-hand briefcase and a mother's voice in her head telling her to make them see her. She walked into Aleks Volkov's office. He was standing at the floor-to-ceiling window, looking at Seoul's skyline with the particular expression of a man who is personally furious at the city below him and considering whether to do something about it. He had his back to the door. He did not turn around when she entered. "You have 7 minutes," he said. "My patience for consultants ended approximately 4 years ago. Make your 7 minutes worth something." Zara opened her laptop. "Your real problem," she said, without preamble, without introduction, without any of the warm-up that the 7 minutes absolutely could not afford, "is not the acquisition attempt. The acquisition attempt is a symptom. Your real problem is that the 3 board members threatening to resign know exactly where your CFO buried 6 years of fraudulent transfers, and they are not leaving. They are positioning. They are waiting for you to panic and offer them something. The acquisition is the pressure they are using to make you panic faster." Silence. "Give me 72 hours, Zara said. "I will show you exactly what each of them wants, exactly what you should give them, and exactly what you should withhold so that the giving means something." More silence. Then Aleks Volkov turned around. He was 31 years old, silver already appearing at his temples, early, like his father before him. The kind of face that had been described in profiles as striking, commanding, difficult. Eyes that were assessing her with the same quality she had always wished people would use. Not dismissing, not performing interest, actually looking, actually calculating. 72 hours, he repeated. 72 hours, she confirmed. She delivered in 51. What came after was not a movie. It was not the story people tell later, cleaned up, compressed, given a narrative shape it didn't have while it was happening. It was something slower and more real and more complicated than that. It was Zara staying past midnight on a restructuring analysis nobody asked for but that Aleks needed on his desk by 7 a.m. It was Aleks calling her at 2 a.m. Not because it was appropriate or professional, but because somewhere in the previous 4 months she had become, without either of them tracking the precise moment it happened, the only person whose judgment he trusted without conditions or calculation. It was small moments that accumulated into something neither of them named, because naming it would have required deciding what to do about it. Her correcting his Korean pronunciation of a phrase he was going to use in a negotiation with a consortium of Busan investors. Him noticing, after 6 months, that she always took the seat closest to the exit in any room. "Habit," she said when he finally asked. "From what?" "From learning early that sometimes you need to leave quickly." He didn't push further. He was not a man who pushed when he sensed a door, but he remembered. He had always had the kind of memory that held on to things other people let slip, and he held on to that. She navigated the invisible architecture of a Russian-founded organization operating in Korea, and it was an architecture built for people who looked like neither half of her. Colleagues who were unfailingly polite and unfailingly diminishing. Clients who addressed every question to Aleks even when Zara had already provided the answer, clearly, in the room 30 seconds earlier. Board members who called her your analyst for a full 2 years after she had been the reason the company still existed. And Aleks, who always introduced her by name, who corrected them without spectacle, who gave her credit in rooms where credit was currency and she was not expected to have any. She fell in love with him the way serious people fall in love. Slowly, without dramatics, in the accumulated weight of small, consistent things. She did not tell him. She did not perform it. She simply arrived at it the way you arrive at a conclusion after long analysis, with the particular clarity of someone who has examined the evidence and knows what it means. She never asked for marriage, never asked for public acknowledgement, never demanded what she knew, in some quiet, honest corner of herself, she had earned. Because she had watched her parents' marriage survive Lagos gossip and Seoul skepticism, and the particular sustained exhaustion of being a family that didn't fit anyone's category. And she had learned that love doesn't come with a certificate. It comes with someone who shows up. She believed Aleks showed up. She believed that was enough. She was right about the first part. She was wrong about the second. Now back to that ballroom. The Volkov Group's annual gala was the kind of event that existed to remind everyone in the room of the precise distance between themselves and the man at the front of it. 300 guests. Crystal chandeliers dropping fractured light across suits that cost more than most people's monthly salaries. The scent of expensive perfume and older money, and the specific tension of a room full of people performing ease. This particular gala carried extra weight. The merger announcement, the biggest deal in the organization's history. 3 years of negotiation compressed into a 30-minute presentation that would, if everything held, change the shape of the Volkov Group for the next 2 decades. Aleks was at the podium, commanding, unhurried, the kind of presence that makes rooms feel like they were designed around him specifically. He was describing the merger's structure, the strategic alignment, the mutual benefit for both organizations, and 300 people were giving him the particular quality of attention, reserved for men who have convinced the world they are worth listening to. Zara stood 12 feet behind him, where she always stood, close enough to matter, far enough to be deniable. She was wearing a black dress, simple, understated, the dress of a woman who had learned not to compete with the rooms she walked into. She had fixed his collar before they entered the ballroom. She had done it without thinking, the automatic intimacy of years. And he had walked away still reading his phone, and she had watched him go and told herself this was fine, this was how it was, this was what she had accepted. In her bag was a pregnancy test, positive. She had taken it 3 times that afternoon. 3 different brands. 3 different pharmacy bathrooms. Because she refused to let 45 seconds be the whole answer to something this enormous, each time 2 lines, pink, clear, unhesitating. She had decided, sitting on the floor of the last bathroom with her back against the tile wall, that she would tell him tonight. After the event, when the cameras were gone, when it was just them, she would tell him tonight. She was still holding on to that decision when the reporter raised her hand. Young, ambitious, the dangerous kind who asks the question everyone is thinking and relies on the chaos it creates to make it look like journalism. She pointed directly at Zara. Mr. Volkov. People close to your organization describe this woman as instrumental in everything you've built. Some within the industry are calling her the real architect of the Volkov empire. Can you tell us? Is she more than an employee to you? 300 heads turned. Zara felt it like a change in atmospheric pressure. All of that attention suddenly pivoting and landing. She kept her face perfectly still. She was excellent at this. She had built the skill over years of being the person in the room that rooms were not designed for. He looked at her and for one moment, suspended, weightless, the kind of moment that seems to slow itself down so that everyone in it can feel exactly how much it matters. Something crossed his face, something that looked like recognition, something that looked like the truth of 7 years pressing against the surface of the mask from the inside. He turned back to the microphone. He smiled, the smile of a man who has never once lost control of a room. She means nothing to me. 3 words, delivered cleanly, no hesitation, no cruelty in his voice. He was not a cruel man, and that was somehow the worst part of it. He said it the way you state a fact, the way you say the weather, the way you say something that has no weight because it requires no consideration. The room exhaled. Reporters scribbled. Someone laughed nervously. The moment rolled forward, the way moments do when they belong to other people. Zara's face did not change, not a flicker, not a tremor. Not one single visible fracture in the composure she had spent 33 years learning how to maintain, but her spine straightened, 1 centimeter, barely visible. And if you were paying real attention, not looking at Aleks, not looking at the reporters, actually watching the woman standing 12 feet behind the podium, you would have recognized that 1 centimeter. You would have known it for what it was. Not pain, not yet decision. She collected her bag, her coat, her dignity, in that precise order, and she walked to the side door that nobody was watching, because she had always known where the side doors were, because she had learned early that sometimes you need to leave quickly, and she was never more correct about anything than she was about that. Outside in the parking garage, the air was cold and smelled of concrete and engine oil, and she stood beside her car and breathed it in for 30 full seconds. Then she got in, sat behind the wheel and did not start the engine. In her bag, the pregnancy test. She took it out, looked at it. 2 lines, she put it back. She pulled out her phone and dialed his number. It rang 4 times. His voicemail, the one he never checked, the one she had teased him about for years, his voice businesslike and impatient even on a recorded message. One breath. Aleks, it's Zara. I need you to hear this completely before you do anything else. I'm pregnant. The test was today. I'm not asking you for anything. I never asked you for anything, and that's not changing now. But you needed to know, and I needed to be the one to tell you, so that's it. Call me back. She sent it, watched the confirmation land. Message delivered. Then her eyes moved to the rearview mirror. A black car parked 40 meters behind her, windows tinted past legal limit, engine running. It was not there when she arrived. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number, a text. We know about the baby, and we know you haven't told him yet. That was your last opportunity. She read it once. Read it again. Set the phone down on the passenger seat, looked at the black car in the mirror, and she felt the particular cold clarity that comes not from fear, but from understanding. Someone had been watching her for longer than tonight. Someone had known before she did, and someone had just made the catastrophic error of showing their hand. Somewhere across the city, a different phone was vibrating. Mahogany desk. 3 rings on manicured fingers, rings purchased over decades. Each one from a moment of arriving somewhere, a merger closed, a crisis averted, an heir protected. The notification read, new voicemail, Zara Adeyemi Choi. The hand picked up the phone, played the message, listened to every single word, the way you listen to intelligence, not for emotion, but for information, for implication, for threat assessment. Paused, then deleted it, permanently from every recoverable location. Set the phone down on the desk beside a formal portrait. Aleks at 25, young and already formidable, and beside him, a woman with her hand on his shoulder in the particular way of someone who is not merely posing but claiming. Irina Volkov, who had seen this coming before Zara was even pregnant, who had been watching since month 4, who had not lived 63 years and built an empire that survived her husband's death and 2 recessions, and one near catastrophic scandal by being the kind of woman who waited for threats to arrive before addressing them. She had been addressing this one for 8 months. She was not done yet. Zara did not go home. Instinct, the same instinct that kept her near exits in every room, the same instinct that had been quietly correct about small things for years and was right now screaming. She checked into a hotel under a colleague's name, paid cash, sat on the bed in the dark, and thought the way she had always thought best, analytically, from the outside, as if the problem belonged to someone else, and her job was simply to map it. Who knew about the pregnancy? She had told no one, taken the tests alone, told no one so. They weren't watching from inside her immediate circle. They were watching her directly. She pulled up her location history on her phone, her calendar, her social media, minimal, carefully managed, the digital footprint of a woman who understood that visibility was a tool, not a right. She began finding threads. A photograph published in a business journal 3 weeks ago, taken at a construction site event. An angle that shouldn't have had a photographer. She had noticed it briefly and moved on. She didn't move on now. A car, silver, seen in 2 different neighborhoods on 2 separate days, 1 week apart. She had noticed it the way you notice things you don't yet have language for. The new cleaning service in her office building. She had seen the crew twice, had never seen credentials, had never thought to ask. She lined it up. Someone had been watching her for 8 weeks, which meant they had been watching before she knew herself, which meant they weren't reacting, they were managing. Her phone vibrated again. Another unknown number. This time not a text, an image. Her bedroom window photographed from outside, time-stamped. Last night, 11:47 p.m. She opened her location history. She had been home at 11:47 p.m. She had been standing at that window. She remembered it specifically because she had been looking at the city lights and running numbers in her head and thinking, vaguely, that she felt strange in a way she couldn't name. She had been standing at that window. Someone had been 12 meters away, in the dark, with a camera, watching her. While the child she didn't know about yet grew quietly inside her, she disappeared in 72 hours. The same 72 hours she had once given Aleks to decide whether she was worth listening to. She contacted one person, a woman from her Lagos childhood who worked in document authentication and knew better than to ask questions about why. She liquidated a personal savings account Aleks had never known about. She had always maintained something separate, not because she planned to leave, but because her mother had pressed it into her as clearly as the second-hand briefcase. A woman with no exit is a woman with no choices. She left her phone in the hotel room, still running, still pinging Seoul, still generating location data that would keep anyone watching it busy, while she took a bus to Busan and a ferry to Jeju that she paid for entirely, in cash. Before she destroyed the burner phone she had purchased with cash from a convenience store, 3 blocks from the hotel, she sent one message to Alex's personal email, the one she had never used, the one he had given her 2 years into their working relationship, and said, "This is for actual emergencies, meaning things more real than the company." Subject line: I tried to tell you. Body: check your voicemail. Check who deleted it, and then decide, alone, if that changes anything. I won't wait to find out. I won't be here. She didn't know if he would read it. She sent it anyway, because she was the kind of woman who told the truth even when it cost her. Her mother had always said, "The truth doesn't need you to protect it. It just needs you to let it go." She let it go. Then she got on the ferry, and she did not look back at the lights of Busan from the deck, because she was not a woman who made things harder for herself than they needed to be. She looked forward, at the dark water, at whatever came next. Aleks read the email 18 hours later. He went immediately to his voicemail. Nothing from Zara. Checked carrier records. The message existed. The audio file had been purged from every server the number connected to. Not accidentally, not a technical error, deliberately. He searched her apartment. Empty, but not abandoned. Emptied with care. The absence arranged so as not to trigger alarm, the way you clean a space when you are never coming back and you know it. Her office. Personal items gone. Her resignation letter submitted through the company system at 3 a.m. Formal, clean, no explanation offered. Nothing to argue with. His mother arrived. Irina Volkov in a winter coat, carrying herself the way she always carried herself, like the building had been constructed around her specifically. She left, Aleks said. Not a question. She's gone, Irina confirmed. She placed her hand on his arm. Steady. Sure. Some women want things we cannot give them, darling. She wanted permanence. You gave her a role. She decided she was worth more than that. Let her go. There will be no shortage of people who want to be part of what you're building. He looked at her for a moment. Did you know? He asked. Know what? That she was going to leave. I knew she wasn't right for your life, Irina said. I knew it from the beginning. These things have a way of resolving themselves. He searched for 3 months. Every investigator came back empty. Every lead dissolved within 48 hours of being followed. Zara Adeyemi Choi appeared to have stepped cleanly out of the world and closed the door behind her. On the 91st day, he sat in his office at 11 p.m., her empty desk visible through the glass wall of the conference room, the city glittering below. Everything he had built arranged around him, enormous and stable, and he made a decision. He stopped, not because he believed his mother, not because he had stopped caring, but because he was a man who had always moved towards solvable problems and away from the ones that refused to resolve, and Zara's absence had, after 3 months, placed itself firmly in the second category. He filed it, the way you file things that are too painful to examine and too real to discard. He told himself it was pragmatism. He did not examine what it actually was. 5 years later, Jeju Island. Morning light coming through a kitchen window onto a small table where a boy of 5 was eating toast with the focused intensity of someone approaching a military objective. Leo Jaewon Adeyemi Choi, named for his grandfather and his great-uncle and absolutely no one else. Silver-streaked hair that his mother kept cut short because she didn't like how clearly it belonged to a man who didn't know it existed. His mother's eyes, the ones that noticed everything and released only what they chose to release. His father's jaw, though he had never been told this. His grandmother Adeyemi's laugh, which arrived full and sudden in lit rooms. He looked up from his toast. Mom. Zara was at the counter, both hands around a coffee mug, watching the sea through the window. She had been doing this for a while. She did it sometimes in the mornings when she thought Leo wasn't paying attention. She would stand at the window and look at the water, and her face would go somewhere else for a few minutes, somewhere quiet and far, and then she would come back. She said. Auntie Sue said every kid has a dad somewhere, even if the dad doesn't live with them. Is that true? Zara set her coffee down, turned around. sat across from him at the table in the way of a woman settling in for something real. "Auntie Sue talks a great deal," she said. "I know, but is it true?" The morning light was very clean. The kind of light that doesn't let you hide anything. "Yes," Zara said. "It's true. Where's mine?" She opened her mouth. 5 years of answers she had rehearsed and discarded moved through her in about 4 seconds. She had thought about this question since before he was born. Had prepared for it, turned it over, run through every version of the truth and what it cost and what the silence cost and what each choice made him. "He's somewhere," she said finally, "being whatever he chose to be." Leo looked at her for a long moment with those eyes that were hers. Then he went back to his toast. "Okay," he said, as if he had filed it, as if he would come back to it later when he had more information. He was in this way entirely his mother's son. Zara looked at him. At this person she had built a life around, at 5 years of mornings and school runs and new words every day and fish with the elderly neighbor and scraped knees and animated movies that made him cry and refused to admit he was crying. She looked at him and felt the full complicated weight of what it meant to love someone so completely that their existence was the reason the last 5 years had been survivable. Then she picked up her coffee and went back to watching the sea. Leo collapsed on a Tuesday morning. Not a fall, not an accident, mid-sentence, mid-law in the middle of the school courtyard at 9:15 a.m., like a string cut, like a light switched off. The hospital was bright and clean and terrible in the specific way of places designed to contain the worst moments of people's lives and keep functioning. Zara sat in a plastic chair and held herself completely still, the posture she defaulted to in rooms that frightened her, spine straight, hands folded, face controlled, tests, scans, blood panels, 4 hours of efficient, urgent, carefully unexplained activity. The doctor sat across from her. Young, careful with words in the way of someone who has learned what the wrong word does to a parent in a plastic chair. Leo's heart, a structural issue. Rare, manageable, but it required information. Both sides of his family history, the doctor said, as completely as you can give it. His father's side is particularly important. There are hereditary markers here that will significantly affect our treatment options. The room was very quiet. Zara looked at Leo through the glass, small in the hospital bed, tubes in his arm, chest rising and falling, the silver-streaked hair, the jaw she had been cutting short for 5 years. "Mrs. Adeyemi Choi, do you have a way to contact his father?" She looked at the doctor. "I'll find him," she said. Her voice was steady. It had always been steady. Below the table, where the doctor could not see, her hands were shaking so hard, she pressed them flat against her thighs to stop them. "And we need to pause here, because this is the moment everything shifts. Drop a comment right now telling me, did you think we'd get here? Did you see Leo coming? Because what happens when Zara reaches out and what she finds out about the gala night in Seoul is going to rewrite this entire story for you. Like this video if you're still here. We're about to go back to Seoul, back to Aleks, 5 years after the door closed, the Volkov Group Tower, 42nd floor. A man who looks exactly like someone who made a choice and has been correct about it for 5 years. The empire was larger. 3 continents. Strategic partnerships in industries Aleks had entered not because he was passionate about them, but because he was exceptionally good at identifying where power was moving and placing himself in its path. His engagement to Sophia Park was 4 months from a wedding date. Sophia was brilliant, precise, the kind of beautiful that was also formidable. Her family's political connections would make the Volkov Group structurally untouchable in South Korea for the next 20 years. She was, by every rational measure, exactly the right choice. He was courteous to her. He respected her deeply. He hoped it would be enough. He had been hoping that for 14 months. But look beneath the surface. Small things, the kind that only someone trained to read financial systems would catch. Unusual transfer patterns in 3 subsidiary accounts, flagged by internal audit and not yet escalated. 2 senior security officers resigned in the same month, both citing personal reasons, neither providing details. A server room accessed at 3 a.m. by a keycard registered to an employee who had left the company 18 months ago, and a file buried 4 layers deep in the security archive, labeled simply, Volkov Hire, created 16 months ago, updated monthly, no creator ID, no authorization trail. Park Sung-jin found it on a Thursday during a sweep he ran personally, the kind of sweep he ran, because 15 years with the company had given him the particular instinct of someone who knows what institutional rot smells like before it becomes visible. He opened the file, read the first page, read the second, read the third, closed it, looked at the ceiling of the server room for a full 2 minutes, then copied everything to an encrypted drive, put it in his inside jacket pocket, and went home. He did not report it. He did not delete it. He sat at his kitchen table and ate a meal he did not taste and thought about 15 years of loyalty and what it was owed to, and whether those two things were the same. That night his phone rang. Unknown number, he answered. Silence. Then a woman's voice. A voice he recognized from meetings, from corridors, from the kind of professional proximity that lets you learn someone's voice without ever being told you were learning it. You found the file, the voice said. Sungjin said nothing. I've been waiting for someone competent to find it, the voice continued. It took longer than I expected. Now, whose side are you on? The engagement gala, 400 guests, the Park family in full political arrangement, the Volkov board, 6 countries of media, cameras that would carry whatever happened in this room to audiences before morning. Sophia in a dress the color of winter light. Aleks beside her, performing with total precision the role of a man for whom everything is arranged and intentional and under control. The merger announcement began, screens illuminated, music, the particular choreographed momentum of an event that has been rehearsed 4 times and is now running itself. Aleks stepped to the podium. He was 2 sentences into the announcement when the screens changed. Not a glitch, not a technical failure. Someone had accessed the presentation system with credentials that had been prepared for exactly this moment. Someone who knew the system. Someone who had been inside the building long enough to understand where its vulnerabilities were. What appeared on those screens? First, a photograph. A boy 5 years old on a beach at Jeju. Silver-streaked hair, dark eyes, laughing at something outside the frame, completely unaware of being photographed, completely and immediately recognizable to anyone in the room who had spent 30 seconds looking at the man at the podium. Second, a DNA report, certified by 3 independent laboratories, timestamped 8 months ago. Third, medical records. Leo Jaewon Adeyemi Choi, Jeju Island. Father listed as unknown, genetic markers highlighted in red, annotated with clinical precision. Fourth, a voicemail transcript. Aleks, it's Zara. I need you to hear this completely before you do anything else. I'm pregnant. Fifth, a deletion record. The voicemail, deleted permanently from a device registered to the Volkov household network. Irina Volkov's personal tablet. Timestamp. The night of the last gala, 11 minutes after Zara left the building. 400 people, not a sound, not a breath. Sophia looked at Aleks from 18 inches away. Her expression was not fury, not surprise. Something more layered than either of those. Something that looked in the particular way of things that have been expected for a long time, like arrival. Aleks stood at the podium for 11 seconds without moving. 11 seconds is longer than you think. Then he turned, away from the microphone, away from 400 people, away from 6 countries of cameras, turned to face the woman standing 15 feet behind him, the woman who had been at every one of these events for 20 years, who had arranged and managed and protected, and it now appeared demolished. Irina's face was architectural, load-bearing, cold. She did not apologize with her eyes. She did not apologize with anything. Aleks walked to the podium. This event is over. Walked toward his mother. Who leaked this? Quiet, between them only, Sungjin's voice. To his left. Calm. Someone inside your family, sir. The encrypted drive already in his outstretched hand. Which someone? Sungjin looked at Irina. Irina looked at her son. I did what I believed was necessary, she said, and I would make the same decision again. You deleted her message. Yes. You had her apartment photographed. You sent threatening texts to a pregnant woman to drive her out of the country. You protected the empire. Aleks's voice was very quiet. It was the quietest he had spoken in years, quieter than anger, quieter than grief. The voice of a man arriving finally at a full accounting. You have confused that with protecting me my entire life. They are not the same thing. They were never the same thing. He walked out. Behind him, for the first time in 63 years, Irina Volkov was left with nothing to say. He did not sleep. He sat in the office, the one with the 40 feet of glass, the one where a 26-year-old woman had said, "Give me 72 hours," and meant it. And he worked through the night the way she had once. Worked through nights for him, methodically, completely, without pausing for the discomfort of what he was finding. The surveillance records, 8 months of them, predating Zara's pregnancy. Photographs of her apartment building, her route to the office, her lunch locations, her evening patterns, compiled with the thoroughness of someone who was not monitoring a threat, but building a case for when the threat materialized. The threatening texts, traced through a private security firm Irina had used previously for matters the company's official security department was not told about. The voicemail deletion, documented now in the carrier records, Sungjin had retrieved with a legal request filed 20 minutes after the gala ended. All of it Irina, all of it arranged, all of it framed in her own internal logic as protection, and beneath all of it, one more file. 1987. Aleks had not been born yet. His father was 31 years old and powerful and careless in the specific way of men who have never been required to consider consequences. A woman, a child, a claim that had entered the Volkov organization's affairs like a structural fault and spent 3 years threatening to split everything apart before a settlement. Paid in silence, closed the crack. Irina had been 28 years old. She had watched her husband's hidden family nearly take everything. She had lived through the negotiations, the threats, the years of instability that followed, the decade it took to rebuild what had cracked. And she had spent the next 35 years making sure no version of that story could reach her son's life. She was not evil. She was something more complicated and more sad than that. She was a woman who had been wounded by a specific kind of chaos and had made it her life's architecture to ensure it never arrived again, and in doing so, she had created a version of it anyway. He called her at 4 a.m. She answered immediately. "You were awake," he said. "I've been awake since the gala," she said. "Tell me the truth, all of it." "From the beginning," she told him. It took 40 minutes. She did not soften it. Irina Volkov had never been a woman who softened things, and she did not begin now. She stated facts, dates, decisions, reasoning. The precise calculus of a woman who had believed completely that she was doing what was necessary. When she finished, the line was quiet for a long time. "She never left me," he said. "No. She tried to tell me. She sent that message and sat in a parking garage and waited for me to call her back, and you. I know what I did. My son grew up without a father because of what you did." The line was very quiet. "Go find them," Irina said finally. Her voice had changed. Not soft. She did not do soft, but depleted. Like a woman who has been holding something for 3 decades and has finally, in the early hours of a morning that feels like an ending, set it down. "Go find them, Alexander, before you spend another 5 years being whatever you chose to be." He was on a flight before sunrise. No security, no advance team, no empire trailing behind him. Just a man with a photograph of a boy he had never met, and the particular weight of someone arriving too late, at a full understanding of everything they have cost. His phone rang at cruising altitude, a number he didn't recognize. "Mr. Volkov," a woman's voice, not Zara. "My name is Sophia Park. Before you land, there are things about the night Zara disappeared that you need to hear, and one of them is that I was the one who gave her the documents that got her out." Clouds moved past the window. "Then I need to hear everything," he said. "I thought you might," Sophia said. "Start with this. I knew about Zara before we were ever introduced. I found the surveillance files in your mother's legal records while I was doing due diligence for the engagement. I read all of it, and I contacted Zara quietly, gave her what she needed, and said nothing because there was no version of saying something that didn't end with your mother knowing what I knew." "Why?" he said. "Why help her?" "Because I have a mother," Sophia said. "And I know what it is to stand in a room full of power and be treated like you're decorating it. She didn't deserve what was being done to her." A pause. "And because I was never under any illusions about what our engagement was, Aleks, it was useful. I respect you. But I need you to understand that I am not in love with you, and I don't believe you are in love with me, and we have both been very polite about that for 14 months. You deserve more than polite," he said. "I know," she said simply. "I'm working on it. Go find your son. And Aleks, do it right. She's had 5 years of doing everything alone. She doesn't need a rescue. She needs a reckoning." Zara opened the door. She had 12 hours of warning. Sophia had called her first, because Sophia was, above all things, the kind of woman who tells the woman first and lets her choose. Zara had stood in her kitchen for a long time after the call ended, had considered the car, the road north, old reflex, the reflex of a woman who had learned to leave before being forced to. But Leo was in a hospital with a heart that needed information she couldn't provide alone, and she was done running. She was so profoundly, completely done. He looked older. Silver had won more ground. Lines around his eyes she didn't recognize, earned in years she hadn't been there to watch. He was wearing ordinary clothes, and he looked more real than he ever had in a tuxedo, which was the problem, because real was harder to refuse than polished. "Come in," she said. She put the table between them. "I didn't know," he said. "I know the message. I know if I had heard it, but you didn't." Her voice was level, not cold, precise. The voice of a woman who has rehearsed this and also hasn't, because some things can't be rehearsed. "That's the part I'm going to need a long time with, Aleks. Not your mother. Not the surveillance. You in that ballroom, with 300 people and every camera in the room pointed at you. Nobody made that choice. Nobody deleted that." He had no answer. He knew he had no answer. He sat with it, which was new for him, sitting with things that couldn't be fixed or filed. "Tell me about him," he said finally, and her face changed, not into forgiveness, not into warmth, into something specific and undeniable, the expression of a parent given permission to talk about their child. "He is extraordinary," she said. "He is exhausting and brilliant and stubborn, and he has memorized the name of every fish in the waters around this island, and he cries at animated movies and spends 20 minutes saying goodbye to the neighbors every morning. He makes friends with everyone. He taught himself to ride a bike in one afternoon and cried the entire time and got back on every single time and did not quit." She looked at the table. "He has needed you. For 5 years he has needed you, and you were not here, and I need you to carry that before we discuss anything else." "I'll carry it," he said. "You'll start carrying it," she said. "It takes longer than one conversation." Her phone rang. The hospital. 1 second. Her face became something stripped of everything except what was essential. "We're coming, right now." Already moving. Leo's heart. Something shifted. "We need to go now." He was beside her before she reached the door. The doctor's words were careful and quick. Leo's condition had accelerated. A treatment option existed, effective, specific in its requirements. Tissue compatibility. Testing available donors had produced nothing. "Mr. Volkov, with your permission." 20 minutes in a small white room. Aleks sat and looked at the wall and thought about a parking garage and a black car and a message delivered to a phone that would never receive it. He thought about 300 people and a microphone and 3 words that he had said the way you say something that requires no thought because it costs you nothing. He thought about what it cost. He thought about a boy on a ferry he had never been on, crossing water to an island he didn't know existed, growing up with a name that didn't include his. The doctor came back. "You're a match." The treatment happened. Leo stabilized. The doctor emerged and said he's asking for his mom, and he's asking if the man from the waiting room is still here. In the room, Zara sat on the edge of the bed, took Leo's hand. "There's someone outside," she said. "His name is Aleks." "The man from the waiting room." "Yes." Leo looked at the ceiling, processing the way he always processed, completely before speaking. "Is he my dad?" "Yes." Silence. 5 full seconds of it. Leo said, "He can come in." Aleks walked through the door and stopped. Leo was looking at him with Zara's eyes, the ones that registered everything and gave away only what they chose. "You're Aleks," Leo said. "Yes." "Mom says you're somewhere being whatever you chose to be." A sound came out of Aleks that was not quite a laugh. "She's right, I was." "What did you choose?" "Not enough," Aleks said. "I'm working on choosing better." Leo considered this with the gravity of a 5-year-old who had been learning new words every day since he was 3 and understood that words had to wait. "Are you going to leave again?" he asked. The room was completely still. Zara at the window, watching the water, not prompting, not protecting, just present. "Not if you don't want me to," Aleks said. Leo looked at his mother. Something passed between them. The shorthand of 2 people who have been each other's whole world for 5 years and have developed a language for it. "You can stay," Leo said. He shifted in the bed. "You can sit down. You're making the room feel weird just standing there." Aleks sat, and Zara, standing at the window with the sea going gold in the late afternoon, exhaled. The first real exhale in 5 years. 3 months later, On a terrace, in morning light, Aleks and Leo sat side by side on a bench. Leo was eating. He was always eating. The sea stretched out below them. The light was unhurried and wide. They had been sitting in comfortable silence for several minutes, which was, Aleks was learning, one of Leo's particular gifts, the ability to share space without filling it. He had gotten it from his mother. "Are you the man my mom used to cry about?" Leo asked. He said it the way he said most things, directly, without setup, with the complete attention of someone who actually wants the answer. Aleks looked at this boy, his jaw, his hair, his mother's eyes now looking at the sea with the composure of someone who has asked a real question and will wait for a real answer. "I think so," Aleks said. "Yes," Leo nodded, kept eating. "She doesn't cry about you anymore," he said. "Just so you know, that's..." Aleks cleared his throat. "That's good." "She kept one picture though," Leo said. Matter of fact, not accusatory, simply informational. "In the back of her phone case. From before, I found it once. She doesn't know I know." The sea moved below them. "What did you do when you found it?" Aleks asked quietly. Leo shrugged. "I put it back. It wasn't mine." Aleks had no answer to that. "Because what do you say to a 5-year-old who is, in 6 words, more emotionally intelligent than you managed to be for 7 years? Leo finished eating. Stood up. "I'm going to find Harabouji. He said we can fish today." He was already moving, then stopped, turned back, looked at Aleks with those eyes. "You should come later. Harabouji says fish are better when there's more people around." A pause. Something about the energy. He disappeared around the corner of the terrace. Zara appeared in the doorway. She saw Aleks on the bench, saw his face, which was doing something complicated and honest and new. She stepped onto the terrace. She did not sit beside him. She stood at the railing, looking at the water, and he sat on the bench looking at the same water, and the morning was wide between them and around them. "He told you to stay," she said. "He did. He doesn't make decisions like that easily." "I know, neither do you." A long quiet. "I'm not there yet," she said. "I know. It might take a long time. I'll wait. You've never waited for anything." "No," he looked at his hands. "I'm learning." She looked at him for a long time, at the lines around his eyes, at the silver in his hair that she had been cutting short on their son for 5 years, at the man who had said she was nothing, and the man who had flown to Jeju before sunrise with no empire and no plan, and asked for nothing, except the chance to be in the waiting room. "Okay," she said. Just that, one word. But the way she said it held more than a word could usually carry. They stood and sat in the morning light. Not together, not separate. Something careful and honest and possible moving in the space between them. Below, the sea was going gold. Somewhere around the corner of the terrace, Leo was explaining to a 70-year-old fisherman in flawless Jeju dialect that the energy in the water was better today because there were more people on the island, the old man agreed. 5 years is not a small thing. It is 825 mornings of holding yourself together in a room that frightens you. It is a boy learning resilience before he learns to tie his shoes. It is a woman who memorizes every exit and calls it preparation and spends 10 minutes each morning at a window looking at the sea and calling that nothing in particular. It is a man who mistakes pride for practicality, who says 3 words into a microphone without counting what they cost, who files grief under pragmatism and keeps himself busy with the things he can measure. It is a woman who builds an empire for her son and mistakes that construction for love when what she built was a wall. It is another woman who finds an injustice in a legal file at 2 a.m. and decides quietly, with no audience and no reward, to do something about it. It is a security officer who copies a drive and waits for the right moment because he understands that loyalty is not the same as silence. It is a little boy who finds a photograph in the back of his mother's phone case and puts it back because it is not his. Some losses cannot be recovered. Some years cannot be returned. Some words, said into a microphone, live in the body of the person who heard them for a very long time. But some people are worth the long, imperfect, humbling work of choosing, not perfectly, not without cost, not without the slow daily effort of a man learning finally to wait, but with everything you have left, which, it turns out, is enough to begin. If this story reached something in you, hit that like button right now. It costs you 2 seconds, and it helps more people find stories like this one. If you've been here from the beginning and stayed all the way to Leo putting that photograph back, you know this channel tells stories worth staying. 4. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. And leave a comment below. Who moved you most in this story? Was it Zara? Was it Leo? Was it Sophia? Who helped a woman she didn't know because she understood what it meant to be powerful and invisible? Tell us. We read every single one. See you in the next story.